Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Final Space, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Heisen, and today I'm joined by Mel Moyer.
Hello.
And Alex Bonilla.
Hola.
Welcome to our Final Space coverage here at Overly Animated. Final Space is a new TBS adult animated sci-fi series premiering on February 26th. Although it is already online, and I think it had a sneak peek airing on TNT, so you can check it out online. That's how we saw it. And we are going to be recapping every episode of Final Space here at the Overly Animated Podcast. You can find us at overlyanimated.com. Basically, we cover a bunch of animated shows, including a few adult animated comedies like Rick and Morty and BoJack Horseman. And we have a main iTunes feed if you search for Overly Animated. And we also will have an Final Space specific iTunes feed. Look for, if you search Overly Animated Final Space, you should find that. If not, it'll be up pretty soon. And you could subscribe that to just get our Final Space recap podcast. We'll be doing, I guess there'll be 8 more weeks of the show, assuming they don't double up like they did with the first 2. And we'll have recap podcasts talking about each episode every week for Final Space. We're very excited for the show, created by Olin Rogers, featuring a bunch of awesome people in the voice cast. Definitely recommend checking it out. If you have not seen it yet and you want to keep listening to hear our takes on it first, that's all right. Although we will be getting into spoilers potentially immediately. Although I think it's fine because these are just introductions to the show. If you hear what happens in the episodes, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Only other note is that our content warning depends on what type of show we're covering here on the Overly Animated Podcast. And considering this is an adult show, we will have a explicit tag up on iTunes for this feed. So cursing and etc. allowed. So warning for that. But let's get into these first 2 episodes of Final Space, chapters 1 and 2. I believe that we'll just have the episode names are just chapter 1, etc. So it's pretty easy. But yeah, Mel, what did you think of these first 2 episodes?
So the thing that drew me into this show from the get-go was the TBS ads with, it's Hugh, right? I think it's
the computer. Yeah.
Hugh basically doing the, Space Odyssey bit. It's interesting because it's like, it wasn't as adult as I thought it was going to be. And when I did a bit more research, I saw that it was pitched to Cartoon Network, and I was like, okay, that, maybe makes a little bit more sense than TBS, just because I feel like TBS's adult cartoons are, American Dad, Family Guy. This is more in the realm of, I guess, like Bob's Burgers, and that sort of thing. That being said, I found it very funny. I love the sci-fi. It's ridiculous. And overall, I enjoyed it. Without getting too much into it right away.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We'll get into more specifics later. But yeah, Alex, what are your impressions of these first 2 episodes?
I also thought it was a solid opening to a show. Right now, the tone is a little strange where it's like, I can't really classify it as a comedy just because it feels, the jokes feel a bit farther than the comedies we currently cover here, like Rick and Morty and BoJack Horseman. They're just a bit more spread out. But at the same time, the dramatic moments, obviously because we haven't established the characters for too long, but because of that, the dramatic moments just feel a bit over the top, and they don't really land in that aspect either. So I'm interested to see how this ends up developing. But like, to me, it hits a sweet spot in terms of the kind of humor it does. It doesn't feel over the top for the most part. I enjoy Gary. His just form of being. It's just like, it's amusing to watch. All in all, I'd say it's definitely a show that I was interested in from the pilot, just because of its more dark humor. And these first 2 episodes, I don't think were as dark as the pilot, but still, it does kind of follow a sort of similar tone. So I'm definitely interested to see how they end up handling that balance between trying to be a comedy, but also like you're doing an overarching plot with the dramatic elements thrown in every once in a while. So, but these first 2 episodes, I think, were strong for being first 2 episodes of a show.
Mhm. Yeah, you referenced the pilot. There's a short pilot that Olin did several years ago that's up on YouTube. You could check out. I think that was before this was pitched as a big TV show. But yeah, I think these were definitely a solid first two episodes to a new show. Whenever we review new series here at Overly Animated, I always say that shouldn't have too high expectations for pilots or first episodes. They're kind of always on the bad realm. And I don't think this first episode was bad. These first episodes out there, they're pretty good. Considering that it's not a series no series comes out firing on all cylinders right away, I think that it was pretty solid. I agree that maybe the comedy elements were less prominent to me than the sci-fi elements, I guess. Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like Rick and Morty or BoJack, where it's like jokes per minute is very high. There's a few good moments and stuff, but actually I think the sci-fi elements of the first episode kind of stood out. The first episode seemed really solid to me on rewatch. There's like the music during these big moments, like when he's outside, and like when the ship when he's gonna get hit with the asteroids and stuff like that. I thought that was all really well done. And I do think the production, like the aspects of the show are what leap out primarily. It just seems really well put together. The narrative, the characters, it's a little, it's new, it's a little weak to start, but it looks great. The music's great. It all flows really well. So it's definitely really watchable and, really, really well put together. A lot to be excited about. A few things I'm nervous about with this series we'll talk about, but there's clearly a lot of potential here. And I'm very excited to go on this final space ride in our first season.
Nice.
Is it really final though?
Yeah. Why is this final space? That's
because it's making fun of the final frontier.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Sounds
this
legit.
the last space in?
It's a spoof off of the phrase "final frontier," but like in a stupid way.
But in a
final
stupid
space.
way. Yeah. Mel, what aspect, whether it be something narratively that happened, a character, some sort of humor moment, stands out to you thinking back on these first two episodes?
The thing that kind of hooked me in the first episode specifically was when he was out in space and they, wanted him to give up Mooncake and he was like, I'm not going to do it. And had that flashback to the little caterpillar and that sort of thing, and his dad leaving. Like, it was quick and it was like cliche and it was honestly a little bit funny, even with the animation on the caterpillar. But I was like, oh, like I don't know, it just kind of got me more interested. And then when you go into the second episode, the bit with Avocatos, I think his name's like Little Cato or something like that.
Little Cato, yeah.
His kid and the fact that he's got this whole like crazy backstory and David Tennant's little psycho characters holding him hostage. Like there's some stuff in this, like it's interesting because you mentioned, Alex, like the tone was not necessarily jarring, but it's a little bit confused at times, I think, with like, it's not as comedic as it might have seemed in, the promos, and it's a little bit more serious in spots and very narratively driven. Like I felt by the end of the second episode, a lot had happened in terms of like, there was like, it's not so much episodic plot. There's something overarching happening, which is weird because I think you don't really see that in adult cartoons. So yeah, I mean, that's just what got me was the little caterpillar.
Little caterpillar. Wow.
I didn't
expect that answer. But yeah, it's a good like hinting of potential backstory and motivation for Gary. I agree that was well done. And yeah, this is definitely not your like American Dad type show. This is more on the plot heavy. It's definitely a serialized narrative. And I think they definitely established that. And the second episode is super ambitious narratively. At one point, I think there's 5 different, plot threads happening.
Yeah, actually, no, because Quinn is introduced in that one, I guess.
You have Quinn, there's the Nightfall plot line, and the main one splits into 2. Okay, I guess there's 4 at one point, yeah. So, there's a lot happening in that second episode. I don't know if it necessarily comes together, although I definitely appreciate the ambition narratively on it. Alex, same question. What stands out to you, looking back on the first 2?
Honestly, Gary's character stands out to me just because, like, like everyone around him is mostly serious. Like, you have Avocato, and Lord Commander is very heinous acting at times. But Gary is the only one who just seems totally insane and just unaware of his surroundings. And I think that's where a lot of the comedy aspects come from, just him not getting what's going on around him. And I enjoy the moments, especially in the second episode. You have him getting stuck in the other creature's body and just stuck in a random family. It's a fun gag. It's horrifying, but that adds to the humor in a way. But yeah, I think Gary is obviously he's the main character, but I think he's the one whose comedy delivers the most. While they attempt to add comedy to other characters, I think Gary's the one who delivers it best here.
Yeah, most of our jokes revolve around Gary, and we'll get to him in a second for sure. Yeah, I think what stands out to me is the, like I mentioned, the big, dramatic moments in episode 1. I think those come together really well. The score, I think in episode 1, I didn't notice as much in episode 2, but, it sounded very interstellar to me, I love that movie. So I think that really worked. Yeah.
It's dramatic.
Yeah. On the other side of things, obviously who stood out to me is Mooncake, who is my favorite character. And
or chirpy sounds.
Chirpy. Yeah. I love Mooncake. I will always watch the show as long as Mooncake is on. Mooncake is the cutest and makes stupid sounds. And,
is this your Janora?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's the cute thing I latch onto of the show, and it is also simultaneously a planet eater, which is awesome. That's my favorite concept on the show, and
it's a useful sidekick.
Yeah, he can do things. He's the cute pet and is all powerful and is also the driver of the plot. Yeah, I think Mooncake's incredible. I think he's deservedly featured on all the marketing for the show because this is the big draw. And Mooncake plushies now, please. Need.
Go there.
Need. Okay.
It's basically just a green pillow and you're good.
Yeah, that's all it is. Not a very complex design. Let's start with Gary, I guess, because he is an interesting main character to see everything from. We learn initially that he's an unreliable narrator because where he thinks he's pretending to be the captain of the ship, and we learn
you are a prisoner.
Yeah, a few minutes in that he's I've told you several times, you're a captain, not a prisoner. He's like, sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, and he's been a prisoner for the 5 years after some dumb shit with the flashback we get. Really, I would describe Gary as very stupid and an asshole, which I guess is not surprising for this type of show's main character, but charismatic and goofy and maybe harmless, although question mark.
Who he reminds me of is Archer.
Yeah, less capable Archer.
And he even has Olin Rogers did the voice for him. And he basically, even the cadences on the way he speaks with his, if you replace Archer's what the shit with what the crap, it's almost the same sentence.
Yeah. So since he reminds you of Archer, do you find him sympathetic, Mel?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's like you said, he's just he's a big idiot. He's harmless in the sense that he's incapable. But there's a lot of collateral. That bit with the family was hysterical, especially when he came back later. He was like, "Kids, it's me, your mom." When he landed on their space car. Yeah. He's probably an asshole. I mean, we haven't really seen him around anyone besides Avocato and Mooncake. I'm interested to see how he's going to react around other humans, whether he's more asshole-ish or not.
Yeah. I think him with Mooncake is what really makes him sympathetic, because he's the only one that wants to protect this, stupid alien weapon. Basically, this is why Mooncake's incredible. Mooncake is the Death Star, except a little adorable green alien. What a great concept. I love it. Okay. But yeah, I think Gary being nice to Mooncake really, makes him sympathetic to the audience. Also, he's just, constantly peppy and stuff. The reason I say he's an asshole mainly is this flashback sequence, with, him meeting Quinn.
Oh yeah.
And this is what worries me about this character, is because he just immediately starts trying to hit on Quinn, and then he destroys a bunch of ships, and that's why he gets put in the prison, because he's pretending to be an Infinity Guard. But the problem is he keeps sending Quinn or he thinks he is. I think he's actually not doing it. I think that's what the show's trying to tell us, because Quinn gets a message later and it's not from him. It's from her weird sidekick character, which we'll talk about. But
maybe they're going to her spam folder.
Yeah, either they're going to her spam, or Gary's just not.
I was going to say, I get the feeling that Hugh or someone is not. Like,
right.
He's logging them, but not sending them.
Yeah, exactly. Why would the prison ship send the messages? I think that's maybe what we're supposed to.
But he's going to let him keep recording them as if they're getting.
Yeah. So you has no reason to send these. Especially, why would he send them towards the person who he, the thing he's put in jail for, is pretending like he committed it against her and like the rest of the army, I guess, or whatever they are. It's not clear. The fact that he thinks he's in love with Quinn after seeing her once, and then continues to, in his head, send messages to her every day. Big red flag in terms of like being like a misogynistic jerk, I would say.
It's definitely over the top macho. I'll give you that. Especially the first thing he says when he goes in is like, "Oh, who's that hot piece?" or whatever. Yeah. So immediately you get, he's not a good guy. But like, I think the show does enough to remind you that other than Mooncake, he's just a terrible person. And I guess therein lies a lot of the humor. But yeah, it's with episode 2, you have that Quinn storyline. It seems she's going to go into space. So it remains to be seen, like, if Quinn and Gary ever interact, like how that's going to go down. Because at least in that flashback, you also get Quinn just shutting down Gary entirely, and she handles that well. But it's going to get weird if Gary, like, we have an obsessive trait to there.
And I think that Quinn is Gary's love interest in the show. I mean, we haven't seen it yet, but if that's what we're doing, Quinn goes into space, they meet again, and over time, like, he wears her down, and they like each other, and they start dating. That's going to be very hard to swallow, given the introduction we got with this flashback in episode 1. I think that we are clearly establishing Gary as unsympathetic with regards to Quinn. This is the number one thing I'm worried about with this show, is that this Quinn as a love interest. I'm not sure how we do this in a non-sexist way. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I will say that in the pilot, the story is slightly different. They make it seem that Gary did actually enter the army and did his training, and that's how he found out who Quinn was, because I guess Quinn was his superior at some point. So at least there, it makes a little bit more sense history-wise, even if maybe he's the same jerk. But it's like, oh, okay, well, at least you were in contact for a long time. But here, it's like, I knew her for a day, and I'm obsessed. So like, that's
not even
even
a day.
worse.
Just saw her once and didn't even talk to her. Like,
yeah. So I would have preferred if they kept that element from the pilot. Like, hey, at least they knew each other before this.
Yeah.
If we're gonna make Quinn an important character,
it kind of reminds me of Captain Kirk in the new Star Trek, where he basically gets in that bar fight and he hits on Uhura, and he like just joins Star Command on a whim. I also found him incredibly unlikable for most of that movie, so that checks out.
But Star Trek doesn't really play as a comedy, does it?
No, it's a similar. It is
definitely a backstory trope, yeah. And we'll see how they handle it. Obviously, if they end up being a love interest, they'll interact a lot more than that one time, and hopefully it'll come with Gary becoming a better person and stuff. Still gonna be tough to swallow. Yeah, so Gary, outside of that, he is very sympathetic. He's very funny with the cookie stuff in the first episode. He seems to, his reaction to being boarded by, these invaders is, I gotta play cards with them. Like, I haven't interacted with another human. Gotta play cards. So I think that all makes him pretty, I think overall he does come across sympathetic, despite also being an asshole. It's a dichotomy we're very used to in this type of adult animated comedy show.
Yeah. Another example that's coming to mind is like early Adventure Time Ice King. Like he just doesn't know how to interact with people. So when that arises, then he just ends up being very awkward around them to the point of like harassing them.
He's an adult man child. Like he's and I've seen.
Aren't all men childs adults?
Yeah, the adult man part was redundant, but he's a man child, and I will say I'm very tired of seeing this character. It's like every guy in media is this almost, to be honest. It's all guys all in real life, most of them, but he does come across sympathetically. I do think the show does good enough job grounding him in these likable traits, but I'd like to see him not be as much of a child, I guess, and I guess that's probably how he'll grow and stuff. But Gary, we spend all of our time on him. Definitely, the character we're most interested in presenting to the audience here. But we also have some other ones in this. We talked about Mooncake. I've made my feelings clear. Are you into Mooncake, Mel?
Oh my God, he's adorable. He's great. I love the little noises he makes.
Would you also, he goes, chocolate. Yeah, and then he also goes, wee!
Yeah. And, he's also voiced by Olin Rogers.
Yeah, that's his true masterpiece in voice acting.
That's the one.
And he also squeaks like a squeak toy.
Yes, he does when you hug him.
Yeah. Why would you make your planet-destroying weapon squeak? I don't get it. I hope we need to learn of his origins.
He's a Trojan horse.
Yeah, he's easier to smuggle if he looks cute.
Is that why? Is it so that no one would ever be able to destroy it? And he's protected?
I don't know, because everyone's still pretty afraid of it, even though it's pretty damn cute. Like, everyone's like, I don't care how cute it is. It's a blah, blah, blah.
I guess it's because they know that, I guess it's people that know, like, the Lord Commander and his subordinates. But that being said, there's also one line in episode 2 where it seems like this is a universal news story of, Mooncake on the loose. So, if Mooncake was supposed to be hidden, it seems like the jig is up with him being a planet killer. Alex, Mooncake fan?
He's cute. I'm a little worried that we're going to get into overexposure if this show gets popular to the levels of Rick and Morty and BoJack, where like it just becomes the meme. But like in the show, he's great.
Yeah, I mean, you had a Times Square ad for the show, which is just Mooncake's giant and it said something. But yeah, they're definitely pushing this. Yeah, I think in terms of the show potentially overusing Mooncake, I think no so far, because episode 2 he didn't do a lot.
He got shoved off with Kevin.
Kevin. So I think we're fine for now, and I think appropriate levels in episode 1 of Mooncake. How about Avocato? Meet him at the end of episode 1 here, voiced by Cody Galloway, and he's whatever species the planet is.
What he keeps saying, yeah.
Yeah. We don't know any of the words they're saying yet, but he's not a cat. He says he's not a cat. He's a Ventrexian. There you go. I wrote it
apparently we're not allowed to call him Mr. Whiskers.
No. But he makes a lot of cat sounds but it's like in the background. Like it's kind of like a joke, I guess.
He gets slapped at one point, I think, by Gary, and he makes like a meow.
Yeah, there's a few of those. Exactly. And it's definitely a lot of cat humor. I think he like lands on all fours and stuff when he's falling. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. He's very serious though, and he wants to save his son. And he's a bounty hunter. What do you think about Avocato, Mel?
He is a lot more serious than I thought. Again, like it was one of those things where it's like, oh, the show's a little bit more dramatic than I thought it was going to be, because it like there's comedy, but then there's also these points where it does like kind of take most of its own stuff seriously, like in these bits, with him and his kid, and the fact that it's clearly set up as a dramatic, long-term plot because it ends. That's how the episode 2 ends. I like him. I mean, he's obviously not as fun as Gary is, but he's also like a sidekick character. So I don't have too much of an opinion on him. Other than that, okay, like the show is more serious than I thought it was going to be because of Avocato.
Yeah, I think he's kind of functions as the straight man for most of the second episode.
I was gonna say he bounces off well with Gary's manic energy. Like he's kind of the correct complement to Gary's character, and I enjoyed him. I enjoy the seriousness he brings to the show. So it's not just two people cracking jokes all the time, like say maybe Rick and Morty. But they're adding in this family angle at the end of episode 2 that will probably end up following along through the rest of the show. So I guess it's just a nice extra thread to follow along and see how that affects his actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not a ton with. I think Avocato's a sympathetic character. I think it's interesting that he is about to sell out Gary, and then he changes course and stuff. It's kind of not clear why he goes along with Gary's shenanigans all episode. He has his motivation with getting his son back. But he, because he tolerates Gary and does seem to care about him, he comes, in the end, he cares about him. He comes across as sympathetically. I wonder if we'll switch him out for Quinn as the sidekick eventually. Or there'll be a group of 3 or, what's happening there. So
all 3 of them are in that opening.
Yeah, he's definitely a major character. I wonder if this is the height of his prominence in the show, or if he'll be this strong forever.
I'd like Quinn to maybe act as a superior, giving orders, from the ship or whatever, and these two are the guys.
The actual captain.
Yeah, and these people do the grunt work or something along those lines. I think that dynamic could work potentially.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. We mentioned the opening, by the way. Quick aside on the kind of 3D rendered intro. Were you a fan, Mel?
It's funny because I remember thinking to myself how much Sam would hate it.
Yeah,
He was the
anti 3D.
Poster child for no unnecessary 3D animation. I don't know. It was kind of weird because nothing else in the show is remotely like that. But
looks very different, yeah. CGI alternatively, we mean, but one of the two. Alex?
I loved it. From seeing it first, I was like, whoa, this looks very well made. I guess it's more taken aback just because this is TBS's first original show, so I wasn't really sure what to expect in terms of animation quality. So just from the intro, you're like, oh, okay, this is high budget. And then you get to the rest of the show and it still looks pretty good all the way around, even if it's back to more standard animation methods. But yeah, the intro I like. The music is a little low key compared to other theme songs of shows we cover, but it works for the whole spacey vibe.
Yeah, I don't even remember what the music is right now. So that's not a good sign. Okay, yeah, dramatic. Yeah, there you go. That's pretty good.
It's okay.
I'm not a fan of the intro right now. Maybe it'll grow on me. But I also don't really care. Whatever.
I appreciate that it's very short.
Yeah, it's short. It's short. I don't really. I'm not necessarily a fan of how it looks, but it doesn't matter. You mentioned that I'm not sure who does the intro. If it's also Shadow Machine who animates the show. I think Shadow Machine is doing an incredible job with the animation quality of the show. They also do BoJack Horseman. I think the show kind of looks better than BoJack, to be honest.
Yeah, because BoJack, I feel like that's animated a lot more stodgily. The characters don't move nearly as smoothly as they do in this show.
Yeah, I think there's an intentionally stylistic difference, and this is a space epic, so it has to look more polished. But yeah, I think it looks great. Let's get back to our characters. We mentioned Kevin, voiced by Fred Armisen.
Such a jerk.
Kevin's such a jerk. Yeah, Kevin
or
is
Fred Armisen.
Kevin's Gary's deep space insanity avoidance companion on his prison ship. Mel, Kevin, thoughts?
Couldn't really keep the robots straight. I understood that Kevin was the main one, but
there's all the robots which are different than Kevin. Kevin's a circular thing.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin. Yes,
yeah, Kevin's the yellow one.
Okay, yeah.
I was confused. I thought them. Yeah, there's a robot that they focus on that has a thing written on its head in the first.
Yeah,
episode.
There's one robot.
Hank.
That
yeah,
has
and I thought Hank was a character, but
Hank.
Hank's not a character. It's just one of the robot
Okay,
droids.
so Kevin, yes. It's funny because it's I get he's just trying to be. There's that bit where he goes up to Gary and he's like, oh, I have something to tell you or something like that. And Gary's trying to launch out into space or something. I couldn't remember what episode it was. He's very clingy and needy, which is funny since he's the deep space insanity avoidance whatever.
Yeah, he always seems to want to talk to Gary, and he's hoarding the cookies over him. He always has cookies, and Gary doesn't.
The running bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's fun. Obviously, he's so memorable to me that I've confused him.
He doesn't do a lot of stuff here.
Robots with crap written over their forehead.
I was also confused by all the robots at first too, but I think Kevin's going to be a character the rest of the show. I'm not. It's I assume he's not staying in prison, Gary, the rest of the. I mean, it's got to shake up. Like he's not going to be
for an isolated place. There's a lot of people to.
A lot of AI. I had the thought that why are there so many resources devoted to keeping this guy prisoner who is just this idiot that pretended to be a pilot and ended up destroying ships? Like, why does he need to be kept in such a complex prison? That seems like a lot of resources going to him. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe there's more than meets the eye. Alex, Kevin, thoughts?
I think he's the weak spot of this show. Like of the main characters, like he's the one that just ends up feeling annoying anytime he shows up on screen. And I guess that's the intent. Like him annoying Gary is the entire source of humor. But I don't know. The jokes they do with him just don't land. Like him forcing Mooncake to go get him cookies, or him drawing balls on Gary's face. Like it's just. They gave him the weakest material, and as a result, I think Kevin is just the weakest character of the made ones we had in these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I agree he's the weakest material. That being said, I think his voice is very funny, and I think the concept of him is funny. So, like, I'm bullish on Kevin, but we need to give him better jokes, yeah. I think it's also KVN because he's a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. We have Quinn. So we get Quinn in the flashback. Commander Quinn Ergon, and it's presumably a commander of the Infinity Guard. Not clear what the Infinity Guard is. I guess they're like the Earth forces of good versus the Lord Commander's forces of bad. If that's what we're going for, it feels very, I guess, Star Trek or Voltron. You have I don't know what they're called in those shows, but you have the Academy on Earth that trains to fight against whatever evil space empire.
Why are the humans always the good guys?
Because we're very human-centric.
Because we are humans.
Yeah, very biased in our storytelling. But she seems very capable. She's in episode 2. She's going on. She's a very weird B/C plot with Tribor, where she's investigating why ships are crashing. She thinks the universe could be tearing apart from the gravitational constant changing, and says something big is happening. That's her plot in episode 2.
That just feels like a setup. Like, how do we get Quinn up into space with the rest of our cast? Yeah,
she's not supported by her command, so she'll probably take action on her own and go up in the space to see what's up. Yeah. Quinn, thoughts, Mel?
I liked her. I'm probably going to get frustrated with the way she's used. That being said, I mean, she's also kind of a trope at this point. I feel like a tropey character. Like this lone female in a room full of like men who don't listen to her, so she like takes action on her own and all this other stuff, which I, appreciate, but I think at this point we're beyond that trope when it comes to women's stories. But I'd like to see more of her specifically interacting with people who aren't that weird six-eyed thing. But I did like her bit in the boardroom where she was like, "Captain's got my back." No, and she's like going to the future. She's like, "You're all stupid," and walks out. And then the guy's like, "Oh, why would you all be stupid? I think you're very smart."
Yeah, so. We'll talk Tribor, but yeah, Alex.
Quinn is definitely has the potential to be a strong character, our only major female character, which is a bit of a disappointment. But I can't really judge Quinn until we actually see her with the main cast, because right now she's kind of just been a side thing. But we know that later on she'll get a slightly bigger role. So I want to wait till I make a final judgment. But just from these first 2 episodes, she's fine, and she's got a strong personality that's entertaining to watch. But there's just not much there. And she, besides the boardroom scene, that's like sort of humor, I guess, but it's also like trying to be serious and, I'm being ignored. So just in terms of humor, she hasn't really gotten much to do yet. So I'm wondering if she's going to be a more serious character along the lines of Avocato, and how that functions with Gary being the main humor character. So we'll see how all that works together. But like right now, she's strong.
Yeah. If she's a straight man, then I think she needs a better over the top character than Tribor. So maybe when she's with Gary, that'll work better. But yeah, she seems very capable, definitely the most capable force that we see. And, she comes across really well so far. I'm mostly just worried about this show's usage of her. Because she's just presented as the love interest and token female on the series, which is not a great look to start with. Of course, it could be that they're subverting this. I hope they are, but it's not a great place to start in where you have, this one female character that's presented as a love interest. And it's just a very male perspective show. So that was my biggest turnoff in getting into the series. It just seems very, very male perspective. We'll definitely give everyone a chance to see what's happening. There are female writers on the show and stuff, so it'll be, there's reasons to be hopeful. And, Quinn, I think her design's great. I think it's a nice choice that she's like a commander. She's potentially a big deal and stuff. So, we'll see what happens with her. And there's also another really interesting aspect to Quinn. Maybe the plot element that I was the most intrigued by in these 2 episodes, which was Nightfall. Who is the culmination of the Mooncake and Kevin subplot in episode 2. It's someone's invading their ship and, the person takes their helmet off and it's someone who looks like Quinn.
Yeah.
Who looks like kind of like a robot version of Quinn. So we don't really know what's happening there, but, Nightfall kind of implants something into Kevin to potentially save them in the future and tells Mooncake to not let Gary die. So, this is, I loved that reveal, and I think it's a super intriguing aspect of Quinn's character.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to get into time travel stuff.
Right. Any theories come to mind, Mel, on Nightfall?
No, mainly because it confused the hell out of me when I first saw it.
Yeah.
It might be a time travel thing just because tropes and that sort of thing, and that's always the easiest way to explain something like that. But there's a crap ton of robots in this show, so that's also a possibility. So I don't know. I mean, looking at it right now, it looks like it's probably a time travel thing.
Yeah, I think those are maybe the 2 biggest things that come to mind, or she's an AI or robot of some sort version of Quinn, a clone, or she's maybe Quinn from the future. Or the past, or I don't know. I mean, it would hint at being from the future because she warns about something, and so maybe like the robot can see into the future or something. But also the fact that she tells Mooncake to take care of Gary would indicate, if this is a future version of Quinn, that Quinn warms up to Gary because she cares about him and doesn't want him to die and tells Mooncake to save him. So,
or at least he has a logistical purpose.
Yeah, he's important in some way.
Yeah, I definitely could see them doing where the only reason she puts up with Gary is because he needs her, she needs him for some reason, and then eventually warms up to him in a real way. But at least to start with, he is some sort of. I wonder if Gary is the chosen one at all. That's something we haven't talked about because he seems like just this stick. Like, is Gary going to have any sort of special powers or special role in the universe?
Well, I guess that's the question, right? Because, he starts out, why is this random dude floating in space as a prisoner on this ship and no one's really doing anything about it? He's just kind of existing in the ship and there's all these resources allocated to, keeping him there, like you said. And it's just, the entire thing is kind of a weird premise. But at the same time, you can chalk it up to, that's the comedic aspect, is that there's this dude being held prisoner by an AI on a ship and he's, deluded himself into thinking the robots are his friends and that he's the captain of the ship. So I don't know. So far, it is serialized enough that I could see them going for a longer story arc and reveal, because they seem to be going more that direction than kind of episodic bit comedy. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think right now Gary's entire importance in the universe is tied to Mooncake. The only reason people are going after him is because he's been hoarding Mooncake.
Yeah.
So it's like Mooncake's the chosen one. He's just kind of dealing with it.
And that sort of carries over from the pilot, because that whole thing was everything's been destroyed, and so the point of that pilot is at the end he's going into a wormhole to go back in time, and he mentions save Mooncake, save the Quinn, save the world, or something like that. So that they could also be like a time, like obviously pilots, there very few elements end up carrying over to real finished products. But we could have a situation where it's like a time loop thing where like Gary's the one who has to go through a time travel in order to go back and meet Mooncake, and it just ends up going in a circle or something like that.
Yeah, Nightfall hints at potential time travel with the show. I'd really love for us to get into complex time travel here. I think that'd be really
I usually get so frustrated with time travel plots because of that exact reason, is that time travel plots need to be complex for them to make any sense at all, and most of them aren't. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the case, how much time and effort they put into actually plotting that out.
Right. It would certainly be interesting or it'd certainly be a bold choice for a show's first season from like a new show creator to go full time travel. But so in that regard, I probably don't expect it to happen. But we have to, at least with Nightfall, we are keeping track of that. Something you mentioned, Mel, is that these pre-intro scenes in episodes 1 and 2, with Gary floating in space, and it's kind of hard to tell where episodes 1 and 2 end. But we have Gary floating in the space. It's hard to tell when it like transitions because they're put together online and as one thing. But there's Gary floating in space to begin the series, and then in episode 2 it also starts with Gary floating in space. I believe at the end of episode 1 he says I have like 10 or 9 days left, or not hours, or I think hours left to live. And then in chapter 2 he has 8 hours left. Is it minutes? I think it might be minutes left to live. And I didn't get this at first, but I believe that every episode will be starting out with Gary floating in space with a minute less left to live. And that this is leading up to the finale where he will be put in a position where he's almost dying. Was not clear to me, but this seems to be a thing that we're doing from, like an intro device to every chapter. Was that your read on it, Alex?
I looked at it as like a framing device, like just like this is going to happen at some point. And I hate keep referencing the pilot, but like this is how the pilot starts too. It's just him floating in space at some point, just everything destroyed around him. So I like that we're kind of like, it does seem like they have something final in store, at least for this season, if not for the entire show. Who knows how far ahead they have planned. But yeah, I enjoy stuff like this. It's like short and sweet, to throw in a couple jokes of him being very, on the verge of death. But yeah, it's short, and even if it's unrelated to the rest of the story, I like how it begins.
Yeah, I mean, it has to tie in at some point to the end of the show. Yeah, Mel, what do you think about that as a potential framing device for every episode? We start off with Gary, a minute less left to live, and then eventually we pay it off in the finale. Does that initially come across as a good idea to you?
I mean, it's fun in theory, but I can see it getting old pretty quick. One thing, like, I don't think this should, like, obviously I've only watched 2 episodes, but they haven't played, well, they've, like, played around with some tropes and that sort of thing. Like, they haven't played too much with, like, actual sci-fi satire at all. Like, they obviously do it a bit with Hugh, and with, like, Lord Commander and some other stuff. And, like, they mentioned space folding at one point for basically, like, jumping to light speed as we would know it in Star Wars, but they haven't played too much with anything beyond that. And I wonder if they do continue to do those things where it's, you open that way with that frame device, if they will start to play with conventional sci-fi tropes more, or it's just these random little very subtle things. But yeah, I mean, I can see it getting old pretty fast.
Right. If it's just like a minute of him floating every time, we're going to run out of material. In the second episode, it's, what would you do with 8 minutes with left to live, Hugh? He's like, I would, put myself in a thing and go see Paris. Like, okay.
Jesus.
And,
calm down, Hugh.
Yeah, calm down. I was like, you're so basic, Hugh. Wow. Gary would, do anything with Quinn, he says, which is kind of his attitude currently. He's fake in love with Quinn. Obviously, he doesn't know her. But if this is the future, he says he'd do anything with Quinn. That potentially also hints that Gary and Quinn grow closer and are an actual couple towards, if this is the finale that we're seeing and it's interspersed throughout the episodes.
It's like, did Archer? I guess Archer. Well, Archer did that in that season where Archer got shot. They started with him getting shot at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in the beginning,
start at the end. That's kind of it's probably a TV show.
But I'm trying to think if there's, and it sounds familiar when I say it, if there's something, a TV show or something where the intro bits like that happen and they're actually from later episodes. You know what I mean? Like you've got something that was in the future the entire time. And I want to say it was Breaking Bad that did it in season 2 when it would have these bits with the airplane crash that was eventually happened at the end of the season that was caused by Walter, but you didn't know at the time that it was the future or even what it was. It would just be interspersed at the beginning of the episodes. I haven't watched it in a while, but that's the only show where I can think of where they do something like that.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting framing device. What I would do thinking about it right now, I would subvert this in the finale. I would build up to Gary almost dying, and then it's like, no, this is an alternate timeline, or no, this is the past, not the future. You know, I would do something to switch up audience expectations, because if we're going to spend every episode there, you can't just pay it off in the expected way. I think that's too boring. So I think there's a lot of potential there. So that was interesting to me when that clicked, because I didn't notice that when first watching the episodes that's what they were doing. The beginning of each episode is going to be this, and then I'm like, oh, there's some depth here. This is kind of interesting, even if it's like an expected framing device. They're like, well, at least we're doing some things. So that's the type of thing I'm looking for, potential from the show. Quickly going through the rest of these characters. Hugh, we talked about the prison ship's AI system. Who's voiced by Tom Kenny.
And doing his best HAL 9000 impersonation.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely what that's based on. I think Hugh he's for the most part is just the voice, but then I think Hugh is maybe the funniest sequence of the entire 2 episodes. At the end, he says after he implants the thing in Gary's head, he's like, you have to be back in 5 hours. At the end, he says, oh, it was never going to explode, Gary. That's just my sense of humor. And Gary's like, you make one joke in 5 years? Is that really all? That's really the one you tell? He says, timing is everything, Gary. It's kind of a basic timing joke, but I think that really worked considering Hugh, the build up that we got from him. I like Hugh.
Yeah, and he's got good timing for sure. Also in the first episode where he's like rewarding Gary, it's like, you did a brave thing. Oh, because I'm the captain? And it's like, but denied. Like,
yeah.
He's also very quick when he needs to be. So yeah, I think he'll end up being an underrated character just because like it is just a voice. But I do think that he contributes a lot to the jokes side of this show.
Yeah. Here's a theory our friend Steve had on our Discord, overlyanimated.com/Discord, where I've set up a Final Space channel. I don't think this theory is true, but I think it's worth throwing it out there. Steve said Hugh is just a voice inside Gary's head and isn't actually real. Because for the most part, we don't really see other characters interacting with Hugh. I looked for this on second viewing, and I do think Avocato does hear Hugh when Gary is getting implanted with the thing before he leaves.
Also, that the Nightfall character, I think they throw something at the computer and they override the system. And
I think there's definitely an AI. So like she could be overriding something, but the voice might, like Gary might be personifying the AI in his head, and the voice might not be. Like that could be maybe what something they're doing. Like, that would be interesting because it's like, oh, like Hugh's telling Gary what to do. It's like, oh, Gary actually knows on his own what to do. He's actually more capable than we're thinking of. So that's something to keep in mind.
It contributes to the whole Gary is actually clinically insane kind of.
Yes, which I think the show's kind of going for, yeah. To a certain extent. At least just in the first episode, there's really nothing to disprove that. So I think worth noting, like, why is the Hugh character is ripe for subversion in some regards. So, I think that's interesting. We haven't talked about the Lord Commander. Short, evil guy, our main villain, voiced by David Tennant. I don't hear David Tennant at all when I hear.
And I had to look up because I knew that David Tennant was in it. I had to look up which character he was voicing because I was like, I think people sounded like David Tennant. I was like, oh my god, really?
Yeah,
definitely not the Scrooge McDuck accent.
Yeah, he's also in DuckTales, but from Doctor Who doesn't sound like his normal self on Doctor Who at all. This character reminds me so much of the fake Darth Vader in Spaceballs. I don't know if that's what we're going for.
What's his face?
Yeah, I don't remember, but is that what we're parodying here? I'm not sure, but it seems like that to me. We make his intro is we're making a short joke with him, and other than that, he just seems very menacing.
Yeah, I do want to say that first scene where it's the guy coming in and like making fun of him, but then he lifts up the ground to squeeze him and then just throws him to his pet and blood spatters. Like that's the scene that's like, oh, okay, this is a serious cartoon. Like and also that's the part that feels the most jarring from the rest of the show. Like that part, it feels like they're really amping up this villain you have to take seriously. But then in episode 2, it feels a little goofier, even though also he ends up ripping off Gary's arm and all of that. So that
was like messed up.
That was also pretty gruesome, right? But I think in that scene he comes off a slightly goofier. But that scene in episode 1 was what really made him stand out, and I think that there is a place for him being just like a very conniving villain. Like also, I think he appears in each of the endings of the last 2 episodes, yes. Like, oh, let's have some fun. And then the second one, he's sending off Avocato's kid. So they've got the whole character with a master plan thing down pat. So all in all, I think he's a really good villain, better than I was expecting from the previews that I had seen.
Yeah. Mel, what do you think of Lord Commander?
I actually liked him a lot. We've only seen I think 3 full scenes of him. But I enjoy him. I really like David Tennant's voice acting. For a second, when I first heard him, I was thinking it was Mark Hamill.
Yeah, he's like that menacing, right? It could be Mark Hamill doing like Ozai in Avatar.
I think I love his intro. He was like, "Oh my God, you're so tiny!" It's so far he's been a pretty good blend of comedy and wow, he's actually kind of really. It's pretty gruesome, like that guy getting eaten and the arm thing, he's for real. So I like him so far.
Yeah. He's the most prominent thing with him is that they're doing the small villain, but he's not a joke. He's he's not Ludo from Star vs. the Force of Evil, where he's small and he's a joke, and he's
more toffee, honestly.
He's more toffee than that. Nobody's gonna understand what we're talking about. But you should that show's very good. But he's very menacing. He's very taken seriously. He crushes that guy, and then he clearly has force powers of some sort. He has psychic powers. He tears off Gary's arm, so he's meant to be taken seriously. He's a little typical to me as a villain. There's nothing, I would like, again, I'm going to say this for all of our elements, just there's a very tropey show to start with. I would like for us to subvert the Lord Commander in some way. He's related to someone. He's one of our characters in the future. There's a lot of things you can do with him. He wants Mooncake. That's his other thing. He's going after Mooncake. What did he make Mooncake? Is he Mooncake's father? Or is he just trying to steal it to kill planets? What's going on there?
Yeah, I will say that the motives so far are very, basic. Because I would definitely prefer that they flesh that out a little bit. Hopefully it's something a little more than, I just want to destroy planets.
Yeah, I mean, so far it seems like he's just the Emperor from Star Wars. So, is there more depth there? Is he just trying to take over the universe? Or is he Zarkon from Voltron? Is he any space big bad? Or was he a former Infinity guard who has turned bad or something? What are we doing there? So that'll be interesting to see. And then, of course, last is Tribor, who we've talked about. He's the six-eyed guy who's just asks questions in relation to everything. It's a very specific sense of humor.
I think he's voiced by the guy who does Bruce, the performance artist in Family Guy. But I don't know who that is.
Seems familiar. Yeah, we'll nail that down. But he's a little annoying so far. I don't know.
Let's hope he's left on Earth.
Hope he's left on Earth.
I like him.
You like him?
Yeah.
You want him to trek along? Who will annoy him more, him or Gary?
First of all, I like that his eyes don't blink in tandem. Okay. Some of them are kind of slow. They don't. He's got 6 eyes and he can't blink them all at the same time. Which makes no sense because if you think about it, you have 2 eyes and they blink at the same time. But for some reason he can't do that. And I don't know. I kind of like that bit with the boardroom. It's oh, why would you all be idiots? I think you're all great. The appeasement questioning bits. Yeah. I don't know. I just really like it.
Yeah, he's just really stupid. So I don't know. What are we doing? What's he there for? We'll see. He might just be this gag character. I'm not sure if he'll have deeper importance, but we'll see as we go. We mentioned Gary. To close. Let's hit on plot points we haven't hit yet from the episodes. And end of episode 2, Gary gets a robot arm.
Yeah, that was surprising. I was surprised that they actually took his arm off and gave him the robot arm.
And so early. It took Star Wars like 2-3 hours to get there.
Right. They did a Star Wars, so okay, that's cool. I wonder what significance this will have. At least it was like stakes in the second episode, so I did think that was cool.
Yeah.
I like the intimacy between him and Avocato and him doing surgery on him, and then they have the clasp at the end.
That is called intimate healing if you're looking at your tropes.
Intimate healing, yes.
Yeah.
Usually it's like the love interest, I feel like doing that.
It's usually a romantic thing.
Are we shipping Gary and Avocato? Or is that what we're doing now?
Good.
I mean, it's there.
Is that the ship? Is that what? That would be a great way. If the show ends up subverting Gary Quinn by having Gary and Avocato be together, then I think that we'll love it. But get your fan fiction in for Gary Avocato. We need their ship name.
We know Avocato has a son, but did they mention anything about other family?
Yeah, we don't know how they reproduce on his planet.
Well, that's true too. It could be asexual.
Yeah, he's you don't know how old he is. He seems older than Gary, but who knows? Didn't mention a companion. We'll say that. We had an episode, a bunch of stuff happening in episode 2. We mentioned the gag with Gary putting on the alien mom's skin.
I love that.
I was really squicked by it. Like, this episode 2 was a lot of blood splatter when the arm came off, the putting on the skin, the guy getting like exploded for several, he's like there's episode 2 was a lot, but, I wonder if that's a specific episode type of humor, if that will continue. But yeah,
I mean, if you got moved to TBS, you might as well take advantage of the extra leeway that gives you in terms of the type of gags you can put on screen.
That's definitely what episode 2 is doing. One other kind of sexist bit that I wasn't crazy about was Gary in the skin was like, how do I look? And Avocato's like, I'd give you a 2. It's I don't know, Gary seemed like taking on the appearance qualities. It was male oriented jokes, I feel like. But anyway, we had that. We haven't talked about Avocato with his son, Little Cato. It was a trap, and he gets transported away at the end of the episode.
Is Little Cato the one that's voiced by Steven Yeun?
Yes. That's
okay. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So so I guess he's going to be important then if you're getting someone because he feels like a big voice.
Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah, Mel Avatar 1 is Little Cato. What do we? The interesting choice. I guess he'll be a main player.
Avatar Little Cato.
Yeah, Avatar Little Cato.
Original Keith from
Cato.
Voltron.
Yeah, Keith from Voltron. So that's interested to see how his character comes into play. We had the whole brain spasms gag, as I mentioned, the exploding brain from Hugh. Notable, I think people seem very anti-human in whatever universe they're in the second episode. The Papers guy is calling him like a primate and stuff like that. But I was interested to see this universe's stance on, are humans the dominant race? Like they don't seem like it. I don't know. How will our sci-fi universe develop? And, let me see here. Any other things? We talked about the cookies gag, the playing cards stuff. I don't know. Alex, anything else you think plot wise you want to hit on from these 2 episodes?
I think we've covered most of it. I guess, have we really talked about the scene in episode 1 where the ship explodes and he's like having to decide between holding Mooncake and...
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit with the orbits coming, and then
because I feel like that's actually like the major scene from these first 2 episodes, just in terms of what the show is going for.
Yeah, that's like the highlight, and Mooncake like lights up and destroys all the asteroids. That's awesome. Yeah, go Mooncake. Yeah, he has to sling hook around the moon's orbit, and light folding seems to be what teleporting is called in, or whatever the
light speed,
hyperdrive. Yeah, light fold is in the show. So
which doesn't even. I'm not even gonna. That's fine. You call
it
what you want.
Space folds and it go. Yeah.
Yeah, light doesn't fold.
I don't know what folds. So. let's
Jesus.
see. Yeah,
Which I guess is the point. Maybe it's like a sentence that makes absolutely no, or it's a phrase that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I wonder how much of the sci-fi elements will be satire to a certain extent, or like parody of normal ones. So far, not that much, I would say.
Yeah, like right now, it feels like it's playing very straight in terms of that. Like it's actually trying to be a serious sci-fi show in a way.
Which is what makes me think we're going to do all these subversions at the end. Like there's so much thing that's ripe to just turn it on its head. I would love that. But yeah, there you go. I think that's everything from these first two chapters. Overall, we're excited, I guess, for what's to come. But thought they're pretty solid introduction. Any closing thoughts on the two episodes, Mel?
No, just that for now I am going to watch more.
Yes.
Ringing endorsement.
It's pretty good. There's a lot of shows you drop after one episode. We're not doing that. So,
well, Alex, especially because, again, like the humor is just, it's not what I expected it to be, but I didn't dislike it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, like, following Olin Rogers on his social media, he seems to be very adamant about the fact that it doesn't get strong until episode 10, which like it feels like a weird stance to take as the creator of the show. And I know
he said in his recent Reddit message, episodes 6 to 10 are huge. So, but I think these two episodes are good enough that I'm willing to hold on until then. But I know that some people, I guess maybe this kind of humor just doesn't land, but for me, it did a lot of the time. So I think that even if it stayed at this quality, it would still be a watchable show. But I am interested to see if he's hyping up like the episode 10 so much, like what exactly is the plan for this show going forward. If it wants to stay serious, if it's going to lean more into the comedy, or if we're going to stay in this kind of in between. Yeah. I think it's fine if it stays at this quality. Although by the way, hot take, is this hot take episode 1 better than episode 2?
No.
I liked episode 1 better than episode 2. I enjoyed that kind of isolated bit more than the super plot ridiculous episode 2.
Yeah, I think
episode 2 was too ambitious.
Yeah, it was too ambitious. It was too fast once we got to that planet. And it was still fine. It was definitely watchable. It was like I didn't really follow what was happening until the rewatch, and it didn't even matter what was happening. And there's just a lot of gags and stuff like that. I think we need to slow down a little bit, but especially if we can hit the quality of episode 1 consistently, that's already watchable. And I'm all for him saying stick it out until the end, because I tell people it's like okay, you want to watch Star Wars Force Evil? It doesn't really get good until the middle of season 2, so stick it out until.
Well, that's what people tell me about Steven Universe. I still have only watched one episode and can't get past it.
Yeah, Mel, you really have to get to episode 45 of Steven Universe before it gets
I guess
great.
That's just the thing with every show now, right? Yeah. Like it's just like hold on.
10 isn't that big of an ask.
That's what I've been trying to tell you about Twin Peaks for years.
No, I feel like I got eventually.
You have to get to at least episode.
Yeah. I think you told me that when I was watching Twin Peaks. Yeah, it's a common thing. It's like Voltron. Wait, you got to get to season 3. Voltron. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say of first episodes, like, have we had a better one in recent memory?
This is one of our better first episodes. Yeah,
I think solid.
I mean, we can go through our shows. The Rick and Morty first episode is very good. It's, I think, probably maybe better than the BoJack first episode.
Definitely better, but I'm not sure if Rick and Morty first episode lives up to this.
Yeah, I would probably take Rick and Morty episode 1, but it's that's a high benchmark, and usually first episodes are bad, so it's starting off strong is really great. We're very excited to see what's coming next from Final Space. I have the description. Chapter 3, I'll read it because it's our next episode, which is these descriptions end up being I actually have them for the whole season, so I'll try. I won't say past it because spoilers, but TBS's website is right for finding these descriptions. But chapter 3, Gary tries to hide Mooncake safely away on the planet Yarno, but instead Gary and Avocato are trapped in a terrifying mind puzzle while Mooncake is taken from them and forced to fight in a combat arena called Deathcropolis. Okay,
Maze episode.
Yeah. Seems a tropey again, but yeah, interesting.
I mean, I'm down for a labyrinth episode.
Yeah, I like the mind puzzle.
Yeah, mind puzzle and then Deathcropolis. Is Mooncake fighting in Deathcropolis? The sentence is worded it.
That
Ambiguous commas in the sentence.
That does seem like an unfair fight.
Yeah, Mooncake. I don't want to go up against Mooncake. Okay, so there you go. Let us know what you thought of chapters 1 and 2 of Final Space. You can comment on our website, overlyanimated.com. If you click on the article for this podcast, comment there. We also are on YouTube. We cross-post all of our podcasts YouTube. You can comment on YouTube about this. Or, leave us an iTunes review on this Final Space feed or our main feed. Any of that's ways to get in contact with us. We also have an email and stuff at overlyanimated.com. All that info's there. And, we'll be taking you through, this whole season of Final Space. I guess our next podcast is not going to be for a little while because this show doesn't even premiere for another week. So then it'll be the week after that. So like 2 weeks from this recording would be our next one. Find all that. Overlyanimated.com. Also talk about the show with us, as I mentioned, discord.com/overlyanimated to talk about, the Final Space with us. I made a Final Space channel, there, and you can also support us via Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you very much to all of our patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Xavier, aka Podcast Addict. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Andy, and Hugh. Check out a bunch of other stuff we have at overlyanimated.com. Let us know what you thought. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Chokri.